This is the Core Outdoors Podcast. My name is Christian Rawls. Before we get into this episode with Lloyd, I want to let you know that registration is now open for the Core Summit. This is a 2-day event in Kimberley, BC on October 2nd and 3rd. The summit is a one-of-a-kind event for the outdoor industry where solopreneurs, designers, makers, reps, retailers, and executives from within the industry come together to connect, learn, and get inspired. You can register for the summit on the Core website. That's coreoutdoors.org/summit. And that leads me to today's guest. Lloyd Vogel will be the opening keynote speaker at this year's summit, and I thought that we'd get a taste of what you can expect from Lloyd with our conversation today. Lloyd is the CEO of Garage Grown Gear and has become the leading advocate for smaller cottage brands in the outdoor industry. I appreciate Lloyd because he is genuine and transparent, and I'm lucky to have regular conversations with him, and he brings that same level of enthusiasm, commitment, and thoughtfulness to our conversations, whether we're recording them or not. I'm glad we recorded this one because he doesn't disappoint. So let's get into it. Please enjoy my conversation with Lloyd Vogel. This is episode 31. And so I figured you were the perfect person to bring on for the second time.
You know, episode 31 has a nice ring to it. I'm glad to be back again. And, just stoked to talk to my favorite person in the world, Christian Rawls.
Wow, that's big. I appreciate that. I want to talk to you about the current state of Garage Grown Gear, what it's like being the CEO of a company that's growing. I also want to talk to you about the industry in general, but also what the smaller brands, the challenger brands that are in the role that those guys play in the future of the outdoor industry. So to kick it off, we'll start with kind of where you're at in the Garage Grown Gear world. And for brevity, I'm going to refer to it as GGG in all future. Great. Cool. What's been the biggest internal shift for you personally as the CEO of growing Garage Grown?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I have to ask myself every day what Garage Grown needs of me. And what it needed of me 8 years ago was for me to grind every single day, 80 hours a week, customer service, order fulfillment, sending tons of emails. And it just needed someone to will it into existence. And that same kind of tenacious, unorganized grit is not what a company needs when it is, growing, has employees, has systems and scalability. And so I think, it's interesting to think that as a company grows, it's different. But if you don't grow as a CEO or as leadership with your company, you're quickly going to find your skill set being outdated. So I think one of the biggest things that I've had to do is just constantly reevaluate what my role is, where I'm needed, and where I can make the most impact. So, I'm not on the fulfillment table anymore. I don't answer customer service questions. If there's something funky with logistics or operations or shipment, it's not me. I'm not the person who can make the most impact in that, and I'm not the expert in that area anymore. So I think largely the area that I've had to kind of step into is less of working in Garage Grown and more working on Garage Grown. So we say we've got a chief operating officer who largely runs all the day-to-day of Garage Grown, which allows me to think about what the next big idea is. It allows me to be able to focus on our space within the industry, growing the larger Garage Grown Gear brand within a national industry level. And that's been a big shift. I don't really get involved with the minutia, not because I don't care and not because I can't, but if I do, I'm stepping out someone else's toes. I say I'm majoring in the minors. I'm emphasizing areas that I don't need to be, and then I'm making redundant work when there's someone else who is as capable, if not more capable than me already running it. So I think that's been the biggest shift over the last couple of years, is really just knowing when to bugger out of certain parts of Garage Grown to give opportunities for other people to grow. And the great thing about that is that they bring less emotion to those spaces. As a founder and as an owner of a business, everything's emotional. Every little decision comes with emotion. And so kind of just limiting the amount of emotion that I intake and output is really important. And that's allowed for me to be able to, stay with a business for 8+ years now.
Yeah. What do you, or I guess the question is, how do you decide on what to say no to or what to say yes to when everything can feel urgent, or like you said, there is an emotional response to everything? So how do you decide which is yes and which is a no?
Yeah, I've been following this for a number of years, but I abide by it. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And for me, that's just if I'm not into this, if I'm not passionate about it, if I'm not excited about it, I'm not going to do it. And that's not, it's not because there might not be value. It just might not be the right time for something. We might not have the capacity to be able to do it. And I think, it's a good, very simple binary for just saying that I think where there is value, one should lean in. And if something doesn't feel 100% right, you just have to say, not now.
Yeah, I try to subscribe to the same idea. I first heard about it from Derek Sivers. I don't know if you've read Derek Sivers at all. That he's the guy who I think came up with that hell yeah or no.
Yeah, let's give it to him.
Yeah, it's powerful. And I appreciate you saying hell yeah to coming to speak at the Core Summit in October.
Oh, duh. Well, I think
plug
like
that.
the easy hell yeses are community, their people, their relationships. Those are the things for me these days that are absolute hell yeses. It's how to be able to dive deeper and not just have kind of surface level interactions with people and organizations, but like, where do we actually matter? And I think those are the things that you want to dive into, because I think as a small brand, you have so many opportunities that it's kind of overwhelming, and you don't necessarily know which ones you should chase after. But I think kind of simplifying the stream of things that you say yes to really helps manage your mental clutter. And I think that is the number one killer of small brands, is just business owners getting too overly inputted by all of the stressors and anxieties of their business, and just really needing to simplify what's on their plate. So yeah, I mean, and I'm kind of notorious for this, but I will be like all in on an idea. I'll take it all the way to the finish line and be like, nah, I don't think this is the right thing. And it'll have been like weeks and months of work. And I think my team at this point knows that if I'm saying no to something at that level, like it's harder to say no to something at that point than it is to say yes sometimes, because it can feel personal to other people when you pull back on something that you all have been working on. But just because you've put time and energy into it does not mean that it's the right thing. And when you started evaluating something, by the time you get to the actual putting it into motion 4 months later, it might not be the right thing or the right priority. And so I think it's your responsibility as a leader to constantly look at your brand with fresh eyes every day and determine what's right for it.
That's good. What's part of the decision making so say you take that project, you've been working on it, people are working on it, people have committed time, and the sunk cost fallacy is well in play at this point. Mm-hmm. What's the decision making process to say, yeah, no, this is a no now? We started as a yes and now it turned into a no. Are there a few indicators, or what is it, gut feeling? What is it?
I think it's often just like capacity for staff. Like, are we going to be able to do this right? Like, is this going to be something that we're going to be able to lean into and do at a standard that we feel good about? And if the answer is like, man, we're barely on top of order fulfillment right now. Like, we've got X, Y, and Z things that we're already trying to figure out. Like, who's going to actually do this right now? And it's like, and if that answer is, I have no idea, or we're going to have to hire someone, but we weren't planning to hire someone, and we have to bring them up to speed to do it, the capacity indicator is a huge thing. And also, I think it's just what other projects are in the balance. Like, something that might feel really important 6 months ago, there might be something else that pops up and, you look at it and say, actually, this is a better idea and it'll generate more revenue. It'll be better for the business. And so I know that this other thing would be good, but this new thing is better and it's going to be more impactful. It's going to be a lighter lift. It's not going to take as much capacity, and the other idea will still be there. So I think it is. And I think that requires a team that is able to be flexible and adjustable, which I think can be hard. We're entrepreneurs, and that's something that we're kind of baked into, is flexibility. But a lot of our staff, didn't start their own companies and aren't used to that level of risk or that amount of just pivoting. And I think that that can be hard to be able to communicate in ways that don't feel like defeat, but feel like, oh no, this is just part of the natural process of doing business. Sometimes you're going to drive things forward. Sometimes you're going to pull things back. And it's not an indication on anyone's work quality necessarily. It might just be capacity. It might be financial. And most of the time, it's a not now, not a never.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about being an entrepreneur and the different kind of mindset that goes with entrepreneurs and employees. Not that the one is better than the other, but one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is that to be an entrepreneur, you have to be really comfortable with uncertainty. which is typically the opposite. When you're an employee, you're like coming to be an employee because you want certainty. Like
Totally.
how much am I getting paid and when do I get paid? That's certainty. Like we crave it, right? And it's funny as an entrepreneur, you're like, oh no, let's change this. We're good with this. Let's try this road. And people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That seems unpredictable.
Totally. And I think that is a very funny part of it. And we as leaders try to create as much predictability and structure for our team as possible. And then we actively ask them to be flexible enough to break outside of that, which is an odd catch-22. And I think, as business owners, we do the same thing. We try to create all these systems and structures, and then we have to have, I think, the curiosity and strength to be able to move outside of them when they no longer make sense. But it is a very fascinating skill set. And you're right. It's not better or worse. Like, I don't want a team full of entrepreneurs that are questioning everything. I like curiosity. I want people who are asking questions and pushing the dial. But if we have a team full of me's, there's going to be it's not going to be good. I don't want to supervise myself.
Exactly. Good point. You've spoken openly recently about the success of Garage Grown recently. Mm-hmm. Like I think you had, your best month ever not too long ago. And that is not the case for every retailer, specialty retailer, big retailer currently in the market, whether it's outdoor industry or not. Like retailers are struggling. So congrats on that. Thanks. For hitting it out of the park on a consistent basis. But it begs the question, what's going on to be driving this growth at the current time?
Yeah. I mean, we were literally just chatting about this in a leadership team yesterday. But I think it's never just one thing. I think if it's ever just one thing, you're kind of building your success on a bit of a house of cards. But I think Garage Grown has had consistent growth it's had growth every single year that it's been in existence. And, I guess as a small brand, when you're going from like $1,000 in sales to $2,000 in sales a month, it's not like it's not catastrophic, but we're still growing at a rate of about 30 to 35%. We're on track to do about 10 million this year, which for us is an indicator that there is continued growth in this particular space, and that whatever the culmination of these things that we are doing, those things have value, and I think more lasting power behind the size of a company that we are. We try not to talk too much about like just pure growth or pure metrics, because you can run a really terrible company at $50 million that does absolutely nothing positive for the industry or the world or your brands, and you can run a really great company at 5 million or way less that really serves a need, feeds a community, and adds value to people's lives. So I don't think that dollar amount like really matters that much by itself. But it is an indication for us that there is enthusiasm behind what we are doing. And that for us is a green light to keep doing what we're doing, which is really, I think and the reason why I think we're just seeing still a lot of growth is because we just don't have a lot of people in the space that are doing what we're doing. And I don't say that because we have some like magical power. It's just that I think we continuously rebrand uncertainty as risk. We take brands that people haven't heard of and put them on our platform. We take products that people haven't seen and say, don't care. Like, we just need the product and we'll do the work. Like, we've got the network at this point that we can take a smart water bottle alternative and sell 600 of them in just a couple of hours. Or, we can make our number one best-selling product a $156 ultralight bear bag from a Canadian manufacturer, and that could outsell all of these legacy brands that exist on the market. And like, I bet 99% of the industry has no idea what Adotech is as a brand, but that's our number one best-selling brand, our number one best-selling product in a top 5 brand for us over all of the big names that currently exist on Garage Grown. So I think there is a bit of a mythology around the fact that, like, I mean, there's no I'm not trying to like bamboozle anyone here. This is a low margin business, but there is a sense that with carrying small brands, that's kind of like small. It just kind of relegates you to kind of dwelling in the small dollar amount area, or kind of just pigeonholes you in a spot of no growth. And I just don't think that that's true. I think if you are chasing innovation within the industry, if that's an ultralight bear bag, if that's a pad inflator, if that's a new dehydrated meal that no one's carried before, you get essentially exclusives on these products because no one else is carrying them. Like, we don't have an exclusive on these bear bags from Canada, but no one else sells them. And we started working with them first, so there's no way that they even have the production capacity to sell them to anyone else at this point, because we're gobbling it all up. So, we don't need to go to our brands and say, we demand a 6-month exclusive on these products and no one else can be able to sell them. No. Like, we don't mess in that space. Like, we'll play on an even playing field with anyone. We just trust that our platform and the differentiation that we offer matters. And I think, when the words that we hear about GarageDrone are so much based around joy, around delight, around discovery, around fun, and those are the things that I think in 2025, having a platform that does things a little bit differently, that isn't just another generic online platform, but the user experience, the way you interact with customers is genuine. It's from a voice that actually sounds like it's of the community, because it is. And that its product lines reflect the products that your core user actually uses. I mean, we have a big luxury in the fact that, like, we don't need to worry about people who are walking in the door. Our audience is our backpackers. That's our thing. But I think that there is this kind of mythology around, well, ultralight gear is just super niche and can't sell on a big platform. And I mean, I've ranted about this on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, the idea backpacking is just becoming ultralight backpacking, and ultralight backpacking is just becoming backpacking. Within a couple degrees of base weight, it's just not that hard to have a light pack. It's just not. Like, there's so much fabric innovation. There's so much, investment in lightening up one's kit. Yes, like maybe another 10 pounds still requires a little bit of effort, but you might actually have to work harder to get like above a 20-pound base weight than you do to have to get below a 10-pound base weight. Because, Osprey makes ultralight packs, and REI has an ultralight quilt, and there's just such a proliferation of stuff. So this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think to go to that core point, it's just, how do you differentiate yourself from all of the noise? You are competing, when you sell the same stuff, you are competing with everyone else out there. And I don't know what that looks like for all of these small independent shops, of what those small independent makers are that are going to bring delight to their customers. It's probably not the same as it will for us. If we were opening up a brick and mortar, probably our selection would look different than would in our online spot. But I do know that there are enough emerging brands out there that every single specialty shop in the country can outfit their shop with more emerging small brands. And that, yes, they might not have the big name recognition, but people are going to be stoked that when they walk into a shop, they're going to discover new and different stuff. And that's why people go antiquing. That's why people love even just going to the mall, is because there's a sense of like, well, I don't really know, but I'm going to find out. And that's something that online replicates so easily that I think brick and mortar needs to kind of adopt more of an ethos around, of like how to make it not just a spot where you can go and try on the thing that you already know about, but how can you come to a spot and be a destination for something that people aren't even going to know existed. And I think that's where brands will continue to see growth, because I don't think there is a world where specialty shops can continue to be able to sell the same stuff that they've sold for the last 40 years and continue to see success. It's just not the same market. It's not the same competition. There wasn't Amazon. There wasn't REI. There weren't Shields and Sierras and Public Lands that were coming into this space and saying, hey, we're going to sell all those brands too. And so if you're not going to differentiate either from customer service or from experiences or product lines, you're not going to be around. Unless you just have such a monopoly on your market. But I mean, we saw it here in Minneapolis. We had one big specialty retail shop, Midwest Mountaineering. It went under. Now there's one small upstart specialty retail shop in Minneapolis that just started this year. But for 2 years, there was absolutely nothing. And that's a metropolitan of over 3 million people. And that shop could not really stay afloat and there was other complicating factors around the closure, as there always is with small businesses. But that's like a clear sign that like it doesn't just matter who's around; it really matters what you're doing.
You open up a lot of entry points here with that. This is why I love talking to you. This is like you just set the ball in the tee and you just start smacking at it. I love it. I don't know which way to go with it, but I'm going to go with this direction. First thought. Specialty retail in the outdoor industry, you just like what GarageDrone Gear is doing now is what specialty retail was doing 10, 20 years ago, right? Like I cut my teeth working retail floor in a specialty outdoor, and you'd come in and see brands that you'd never heard of before or seen before, mainly because they were like innovative and like niche to climbing or backcountry in some way. But now it's like as the industry has matured, the proliferation of growth and publicly traded companies and all that stuff who are playing these brands, and the reliance on lifestyle. So selling lifestyle apparel that with a higher margin as opposed to niche gear. So good on you for filling the void. And, the proof's in the pudding, I suppose, because it's working. So with that idea, how do you grow Garage Grown? Or what's your thinking around growing Garage Grown gear? Like, how do you think about merchandising as you grow into the future so that you don't become, we sell fleece now? I mean, you sell fleece, I understand. But you know what I mean? In the sense of like, well, we're just going to sell a bunch of lifestyle SKUs because it helps bust the revenue up.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think for us, it's just having a very strong point of view in terms of how we evaluate products. So we have a product review team here that looks at every sample that gets sent to us. And we have a pretty strict set of criteria that if it is not something that has the use case of ultralight backpacking and outcompetes other similar products, like when we're reviewing a product, we don't just look at it in the context, like we look at it within the context of what else is in the market. So, we can get a puffy fleece and be like, this is a cool puffy fleece, but like, that's not enough for us to say yes to it. We need to be able to see, well, what does it do better than the other puffy fleeces on the market? Like, does this do something that's like actually different? Does this product have a point of view? Does this brand have a point of view that is actually compelling to our audience? And I think that alone, I mean, a couple of years ago, you just used to just be like, what does Lloyd want to bring on the Garage Grown? Does Lloyd like this product? And if the answer was yes, I'd be like, cool, guess then I just buy it. And that's not what we do anymore, because we need to have a set of criterias and standards that aren't just chasing the dollar. Like, we sell stuff on our site that doesn't sell well at all. That doesn't mean that we stop selling it. It just means that we adjust our inventory to be able to make sure that we have the right amount stocked for how quickly or slowly it moves. But, we've moved warehouses every 3 years. Sometimes, I guess we moved every year for a while, and then, we haven't moved for about 3 years now. But it's only a matter of time before we'll have to again, because I don't think that there's necessarily a cap on the size of what Garage Grown is going to be. Like, we're going to add 50 plus new brands this year. We added 50 plus last year. We'll probably continue at that pace, I imagine, for a while, because there's always innovation happening. And we do prune products and brands occasionally off of the site when they aren't innovating, or if they close, or there's a bunch of other reasons. But I think we've so solidly said we want nothing to do, and it's not because the lifestyle space isn't a good space. Like, we've talked about this, but Huckberry is one of my favorite websites. I shop there far too much. The pants I'm wearing right now are from Huckberry. I love the casual outdoor space, but that isn't our customer. And there's a lot of people that are kind of moving into that space. And I think one loses the differentiation between that. Like, our audience is core for whatever that means, because I don't really understand totally what that means, because I don't consider myself to be core. Living in Minneapolis, I get a trip or two during the course of the year. Like, I walk my dog and play with my baby, outside, and I go paddle on the lake nearby. But I feel like those kind of identifications work best for folks that live in mountain towns, not folks that necessarily live in urban areas. So I don't know. I feel like those kind of designations are a little bit irrelevant, but I think there is an allure. There's like the forbidden fruit of becoming a store that just sells apparel. And I heard it at a number of the trade shows that I was at recently, of outdoor buyers being like, oh yeah, we've really moved away from hard goods. Be like, how can you move away from hard goods like that? Like, are you an outdoor shop? Like, it's not even any shame on like what outdoors is. Like, I think anyone who wants to consider themselves and the activities that they do outdoors is great. But if you are a specialty shop that is selling outdoor stuff, if you start selling t-shirts, you're competing with Nordstrom's, with Macy's, with like, you're just throwing your hat into you're making yourself a really small fish in a really big pond. And I would much rather be a very big fish in a very small pond. And I think that is very much what Garage Grown is maybe most of the general population has no idea who we are. That's fine. It just means there's more opportunity. But yeah, I will always choose being a big fish in a small pond.
So you said everything gets viewed, merchandise before it comes on the site gets viewed through the lens of how does this serve ultralight backpacking? And is it innovative? Is there a future where you expand that beyond ultralight backpacking? Do you see a place where Garage Grown moves beyond ultralight backpacking to add, more categories?
No.
Wow.
I don't, because we don't know anything about those areas. Like they're not I think we've had intentional conversations in the past about trail running. We've had intentional conversations in the past about bike packing, but like
So hot right now.
it's so hot. It's so cool. And we honestly, we have a ton of customers that buy from us who are bike packers, who are, fast packers, who motorcycle camp because space matters for that too. But it's just not it's not who we are. It's not what our team is made of. It's not how we market. It's not what we're passionate about. And I think like we're not in this, we didn't come into this industry and say, how do we monetize this type of gear? Or we came into this industry because we liked this type of gear and wanted to be able to connect it to other people who did. So like, I have no passion for bike packing. I ride a fixie around Minneapolis. Like it's not what I do. Trail running, sweet, but I don't know. I'd rather do the slow version of that, which is just hiking. And those are like cultures and communities that like we don't market to, we don't hang out in. And more importantly, the makers of our gear are not in those spaces as much as they are in the through hiking ultralight space.
So like when you bring a brand like Norda on, and I know you have another trail running shoe coming on in the future too, like that's a trail running category. Norda is a trail running specific, but you're bringing that on because ultralight backpackers are using them for their trips, not
Totally.
because you're interested in trail running.
Yep, exactly. And, we are going to bring in a couple more footwear brands over the course of the next year. And you're going to see us take on a couple of brands that have 1 billion SKUs, and we're going to take on one product.
Right. Cool.
Because that's the one that works best for our audience. And we always want anyone who's on Garage Ground to be able to, if we got a dozen pairs of shoes, that they can't go wrong. Like maybe the choice that they have won't be perfect for their particular foot, but all of those options can be used for long distance hiking.
Right.
You don't have to worry about accidentally buying a lifestyle version of a Hoka or an Ultra or a pair of Topos. Like the shoe that you're going to buy is going to be good for it. Similar for our apparel, for our packs, for our accessories. Like might not be a perfect fit for how you build a kit, but it is something that it can be in an ultralight kit.
I love it. You're not getting the lifestyle version. This reminds me of a concept that a guy named Nathan Barry, he's the CEO of Kit. I don't know if you ever heard of Kit. Kit is like what used to be called ConvertKit, an email newsletter.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so he has this concept. He says, don't build strip malls, build skyscrapers. And a lot of businesses come in and they start the thing, whatever that core business is, and they're like, oh, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And it building out horizontally, which is just distracting you. Whereas he's saying like, no, just keep building it up, right? And I love that. That's kind of what you're saying is like, no, Garage Grown is we're building this skyscraper around ultralight. We're not going to branch out into all these other things and building this strip mall. Not that there's anything wrong with strip mall, but it can get very distracting and very confusing, much to your thing of like, well, if I come into your site and you have all these different SKUs of shoes, I could accidentally get something that just does not work for me. So
and
I
there's
like
I just wrote that down because that's a great comparison, and I think that goes back to just like wanting to dive deeper instead of broader into communities. And that's the thing is like the internet is so broad that unless you have a really specific point of view to call people to your site, you're going to lose people in other spaces. Like there is a reason why like we are not trying to be something to everybody. We are trying to mean something to a very specific community. And we think that community can grow. And I don't mean that in an exclusive way. We want as many people to come to this as possible. But we're not trying to sell stuff to RVers. We're not trying to sell stuff to paddle sports, folks. Like those areas are great. I love paddle sports. I came into the outdoor industry through kayaking. But, we don't sell that stuff. Not because it's bad. It's just not our community. And if we try to carry all of this stuff, we're going to dilute the thing that we have. And, not to call out any particular retailers, but I think there is a bit of a crisis within bigger retail and small, but just like, what is your point of view? Who is your audience? What are you trying to do with your platform? And I think that's the biggest insult that you can give to a business is like, I don't understand, like, what is it that you do again? It's like, we do ultralight backpacking. That's it.
So that brings up a really good point. One of my questions was, what is one of the biggest misunderstandings that small brands have about scaling? And where do you see them most often get it wrong? I want you to answer that question. But it seems like what you just said about figuring out who you are and who you serve is probably part of that equation of what they struggle with. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it. I mean, I feel like we've increasingly been having conversations with brands where, I think this has been a very relevant conversation over the last couple of months, but this whole notion of like where you manufacture, if it's in the US, if it's not. And I think a lot of brands kind of, their issue is figuring out their manufacturing, and that kind of inhibits them from thinking about anything else, like where they want to go with their brand, what they want to be able to do. And I think one of the biggest hiccups that small brands have is not figuring out ways to be able to have their production be as streamlined as humanly possible so that they can focus on the parts of their business that really need their attention. And I don't mean that to disparage anyone who hand makes their own gear, because there's a lot of people who do that and they do a really great job of that. But I think we've seen it in this market over and over and over that if that is your business model, it's going to be very challenging to be able to grow and scale, because the skill sets needed to be able to grow an in-house sewing team is a lot. And if you are the only one who is sewing, there is going to be a capacity eventually that you are not going to be able to go behind. And I think for us, it's just how do you work with experts who are in that space? There are already domestic manufacturers that can take your product, be able to make it, and free up the time that you need to be able to grow your business, grow demand, build wholesale, do marketing, do all the things that your business really needs you to do, instead of having you sew in your basement for 10 hours a day. And, I think we've seen brands that could do that for a couple of years, where they're just grinding constantly. They're sewing thousands of things for like essentially no money. And then eventually are like, I just can't do this anymore. And they hit an absolute wall. And most small businesses tend to fail because it's just too hard to do, and they can do something that'll pay them more in a different space. So I think earlier rather than later, I think exploring what not being the person to do your manufacturing, if that's domestically or internationally, I don't think there's a one size fit all for every single brand that's out there. But if you are the one making your gear, it is only a matter of time before you need to figure that out.
Right. I would imagine, and I've heard people say it, that there's a fear that if you are making things literally in your garage and you switch and you outsource, even domestically outsourced, but especially overseas outsourced, there's a fear that you're going to lose the core audience. You're going to be a sellout. Is there a reality to that? Do you think that's a unwarranted fear, or do you see a truth to that in kind of the history of Garage Grown and the brands you've sold?
I mean, I think that's an inevitability of growth, is that you're always going to lose some folks that are like, oh, this wasn't as small as. And I think there's always kind of a romanticization around like what it is to be a small cottage brand, but that doesn't take into perspective that like no small cottage brand really wants to be a small cottage brand. I mean, some do love that, but if your goal is growth, the responsibility is more to be able to figure out how to be able to grow and stay true to your values rather than fearing growth itself. Because to me, if you are trying to build a business, growth isn't a like, are we trying to do this? It's we are trying to do this. How do we do this authentically? How do we do this organically? And I think ultimately what people are concerned about that when they grow is about losing control. They're concerned about losing control of their manufacturing and having it not be as good, and having people be annoyed that they're now manufacturing somewhere else and the product isn't as good. And I think they're concerned about losing control over their marketing or their message, or they're concerned about losing control over what their audience is going to be able to think. And honestly, as a small business owner, if you aren't willing to be able to give up the illusion that you have control over all aspects of your business, this isn't going to work. Like, you have to trust others. You have to. You can't just hold everything to yourself. And if you do, you're going to stay as a small company. Because then the business can only grow as far as you are able to grow it. But yeah, you eventually need to be able to trust a manufacturing partner who's going to make your stuff well. You eventually need to be able to trust someone who's going to be able to come in and market this thing effectively. Because if you're not, then you're basically saying that the marketing's only going to be as good as you are at marketing, or production is only going to be as good as you are at production. But I don't know about you, Christian, but like, I'm not that good at the majority of aspects of business, but I am in a couple of very key spaces. And if I don't trust other people who I know are better than me at those spots, I'm going to limit growth. So I think that it is more about kind of coming to grips with how to be able to give up control to folks that you trust over time, because the alternative to that is just not growing.
Or grow like a rocket ship and then burn yourself out and
Yeah.
just like drive yourself nuts and your family hates you because you never show up anymore. That is a very common trait for entrepreneurs. Back to the idea of control. I think you hit it on the head perfectly. It's like that idea of we got to have control over those things.
Yeah, it's such an illusion.
Yeah. What do you think the outdoor industry? Well, two questions. What gives you hope for the future of small brands in the outdoor industry? And what do you think the outdoor industry as a whole could do to better support those small brands?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty optimistic about it. I mean, I think if you're doing something different and new and innovative in the outdoor industry, I think we've seen it time after time that these brands get rewarded. It's not always like an instant play. It's not always perfect, but you look at the brands that are being successful in the small space and they're doing something that's interesting, something that's unique, that's not just the same old thing. And I think having a perspective that's different. And I think folks in 2025 are craving some type of connection, creating some type of differentiation, craving something that isn't just a product, but it's an idea. It's a community. It tethers you to something, some form of identity that makes you feel something. Because I think all of us are just looking for community, a sense of belonging. And we see that in comments about GarageGroom, where I swear some of these testimonials that we get about GarageGroom, like, I think you like this company like more than I do. And that's really cool and quite the honor. But it's when you create something that actually has value, it's going to kick value back to you. But I think, in a sea of options, the being mediocre is no longer a path towards being successful. Like, one really needs to do something different to have long-term sustainability and scalability. And I think that's just real. So yeah, do things that are different, try it, change it, try it again, be weird, be authentic, create content that makes people feel something. And then do that a lot. And then I think what the industry can do to be able to support, I'm stealing this from Owen Comerford, who had this idea, but every sales rep should have at least one brand that they take that is just a pure passion project. That just is like a, that they're not worried about, like, is this going to make me enough money annually? That it's just like a total, like, I don't know, like when lawyers take on pro bono cases, that like a sales rep should have at least like one pro bono type of account where they're like, this could be nothing or it could be something. But I'm willing to be able to champion it because I believe in this brand. And I think some similar retailers should free up parts of their buying to be able to allocate towards smaller and emerging brands, areas that they're willing to be able to take a risk on because they think it's a cool product, and like really have that be something that they are. I mean, some brands, that's just like part of what they do, is they're constantly exploring and innovating in terms of what their product lines are. But I think specialty shops like need to really ingrain the idea of that there is not a difference. Like, specialty shops are small brands and so are small brands. So specialty shops should be supporting small brands. And I've always felt like there is a odd thing of like when certain specialty retailers are like, support our small business. And then you look at the products that they're carrying going, but you don't support small businesses. You support big brands. So like, how about you practice what you're preaching and also support small brands? So I think it is just asking everyone to if they want a healthy ecosystem of brands to be able to evolve, they need to be able to really allocate time and energy for it. And, that's what the entirety of GarageGrown Gear's business platform is. And I think if GarageGrown had specialty shops all across the country, they probably wouldn't be successful. But I do think, because it is a little too niche, but I do think that we have enough products that could be successful in some of these, more generalized specialty shops, that every store in the country would benefit from adding more emerging brands to the table. And I honestly feel fairly optimistic about that. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom about tariffs, like crushing an entire generation of small brands up and coming. I mean, I just don't think that that's possible. Like, I think there's, like, I don't think any of these folks, at least that we work, are sitting in their basement going, I'm being crushed. Like, I think there's middle-sized brands that are definitely feeling that. Some like late-stage startups, I think, that are really feeling that. But like the folks that are in their basement, just like on a sewing machine, trying to be able to make something happen, like there is as much enthusiasm as there was whenever. Creativity isn't something that just gets stifled or destroyed. I think like we are way more resilient of an industry than that. And I think we are seeing a little bit of bloat within the outdoor industry. This question of like, do we actually need all of these brands? Probably not. Do we need all of these products? I don't think so. And I think I don't mean this to be callous, but I think we probably will see, and this always happens, an attrition of brands, a pruning of brands to be able to adapt to what modern retail and what the modern outdoor industry is. And that's not saying that is necessarily like good, bad, healthy, unhealthy, or whatever, but it's probably going to happen through this. But it's not like the outdoor industry isn't going to come out of that and be healthy. It just might be a slightly different size. And honestly, I don't know how much I care. Like, I don't care if the outdoor industry is $1 trillion business or slightly smaller than that. Like, I don't know. Like, that feels like it's all just kind of like I care more about the customer, the community, the vibe, the feeling, people actually getting outside than I do about some major VC funded company, hitting their sales quota and growth, because largely those top end dollars are like if Shields doesn't have a good fourth quarter, like, am I losing sleep over that? Like, no.
You got to go out on your own solo trip not too long ago, and you're seeing the best gear come across your desk on a daily basis. What's your favorite right now?
Yeah. Well, I think there's just a real abundance of cool stuff, but I really enjoyed my Nemo Hornet. I've been using freestanding tents for a really long time, or trekking pole supported tents, and then this was the first freestanding tent I've used in a while, and man, it was nice just to be able to be like, man, I'm tired, and this tent sets up without any fuss. So I have to admit that is a piece of gear that I do not think I will be leaving behind. And I think it's also pretty easy to bring a freestanding tent and still have a very low base weight, because I don't know, you can just find freestanding tents that are just a little over a pound. So that is a big piece of gear I'm really into these days. There's also this cool pot lid that's coming out of the market. I know, niche.
Wow.
Pot lids, designed by this YouTuber and influencer, Justin Outdoors, that helps nestle your fuel canister, lighter, and your spoon with your pot, so that it doesn't jingle and jangle around, and keeps everything nice and secure, which I'm pretty excited about.
Hold on. Justin is going to be he's running a workshop at the Core Summit.
That's right.
And is this product out there yet, or is it coming soon?
It'll be coming out in about a month. Yeah.
What?
So we'll have it on Garage Grown. Yeah. Justin's a busy man. He's got a lot of stuff. And that's a great get for Core. He is a awesome dude. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with him a number of times at different shows and stuff, and he's just like one of the nicest, most genuine people in the industry. He's
amazing.
Canadian, so
yeah. Well, it comes with the territory. Great, good to know. Okay, anything else? No pressure.
Not really. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of small things that I think are innovating in neat ways, but like nothing that's like really blowing it out of the water. And honestly, I kind of like it that way. Like,
sure, great.
No one's going to radically redefine a tent at this point, or radically redefine a quilt. It's just, nylon and down. And there's like slight tweaks to what that can be. But ultimately, like, I could geek out about the details of some of these different things, but nothing that anyone listening to this pod will care about me talking about.
Yeah, you know what? Somebody's listening to this podcast right now. They're literally in their basement, and they're like, yeah, Lloyd Vogel, watch this. And they're going to come out with some super innovative quilt, and you're going to be like, damn. Like, so, man. Don't doubt the creativity.
Yeah, they attached a helium balloon to their pack. So now they have a -2 pound base weight.
Genius. Did you have a drone that just follows you around with a little string on it to pull?
Yeah, there you go. See? That's the innovation.
Yeah. Well, you may have already answered this question, because I was going to ask you, what are the bigger brands that you're interested in? And you Nemo is maybe not the biggest, but certainly close to as far as hard goods. Lots of respect for Nemo. You sell their stuff on GarageGrown, which is, there's a handful of big brands that get access to GarageGrown if they pass the muster. So are there any other ones that you look up to and admire for what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of brands that are starting to not only just enter the ultralight space, but also innovate in it. And I think, Nemo is a prime example of, they've been in this space for a long time, but they continue to come out with innovative designs that push the boundaries on what ultralight is. I think Mountain Hardware is about to come out with a couple of products that are very cool, a very cool pack and quilt that I think will probably have some good hubbub about them in the upcoming months.
Wow.
I think Black Diamond also kind of took forays more into the ultralight space. They released a jacket, the Deploy, and the Beta Light pack that I think are both really well positioned in the ultralight space, and their trekking poles are just awesome for ultralighters. So I think there is like good innovation. I think it's just such a small part of what they do. Like if you just kind of got to find it in their product lines. Like, everything from Cascade Designs has continued to just be so wonderful. I think Thermarest keeps coming out with a lot of great products. MSR somehow has just like continued to plug away as an industry standard for years and years. Same with Platypus. So I think Cascade Designs has really done it in a really cool way. I think those are some big brands that I would definitely say, and that's not an endorsement for all of what they make, but definitely are taking stabs at innovating in the ultralight space.
Cool. Okay, we're going to wind this down with a few questions. What scares you for the next stage of GarageGrown's journey?
Honestly, I think some of the things that scare me are some of these bigger brands getting into ultralight. I think that's a little bit of a potential existential threat. Ultralight used to be this little tiny niche thing that small brands did, and largely they kind of just had hegemony over it because no one else cared. And now people are starting to pay attention to the vertical. So I think part of me is concerned that some of these small brands might be outcompeted by bigger brands who are seeing opportunity in the space.
Interesting. Well, I think you have the first mover advantage. So I would think that those brands would be coming to you to want to sell on your site. True. And potentially you could have a say in what happens in that world.
That's a lot of power.
Yeah. Well, let's hope for it, because we want to protect the and encourage the growth of the small brands. Mm-hmm. Looking back over your time running GarageGrown, what did you take too seriously or you were too concerned about that in hindsight probably shouldn't have consumed so much of your time?
Definitely individual customer feedback. I think anyone who's run a company I don't know what the ratio of positive comments to negative comments are that makes you ignore the negative comment, but I've never found there to be enough positives to make me not focus on the negative. And I think I would have wished that I would have had the context just to put my blinders on and be like, that guy, or it's traditionally a guy, is just a jerk. And, we were going to lose them as a customer at some point, and it just happened to be during this interaction, or, just having more forgiveness of like, I can't control how USPS works, and that dude's, annoyed about that, and that's just how that happens. So I think just like not allowing the highs or the lows to hit you too hard, but trying to be as even keel as possible, and especially not allowing individual customer experience to be able to taint your emotional space.
Yeah, that's wise. I appreciate that. What do you think you'll look back on in the next 5 years and recognize that you were wrong or we were wrong collectively?
Whoa, good question. Oh, what would I look back on? I think the outdoor industry will be in a much healthier place in 5 years. But I do think that it's partially going to be because of some of the challenges that are happening right now. I do think we will see some brands boogie out of the space, either willingly or unwillingly. And I think it'll be in a better spot. And so I think the things that I think that we're going to look back and be wrong on is just like the ultimate like doom and gloom of like kids aren't getting outside anymore. Everyone's just on their phones. We're destroying public lands. That still might be one.
Yeah,
probably will. But I think kind of like the existential dread for the outdoor industry, I think we'll look back on that in 5 years and say, no, this was just kind of a reckoning for the industry, not a overall, indictment of what the industry will look like in the future. It's renorming.
Cool. I always end with the question of how do you define success for yourself? You've answered this before, but I'm gonna give you the opportunity if you want to, have another swing at how do you define success for yourself?
Oh man, well, I don't remember what I said last time.
Good, perfect. Maybe we should work on your definition, Lloyd.
Yeah, well, maybe it's changed also in the last year.
Yeah, and you're totally free to do that.
I think success looks like for me, I'm gonna choose the lens of me instead of garage grown.
Yeah, please. I want that. I want you.
I think that for me is honestly just like feeling good about the work that I'm doing in the industry. Like it's a little woo woo, but like
I'm here for
I don't know. I love going to trade shows because it feels good. It feels like community. It feels like relationship. It feels like value. It feels like depth. And honestly, I don't know. It feels weird to say, but like at this point in my career, like that's what I'm chasing. Like if that's my interactions with Garage Grown, if that's my interactions with folks in the industry, shows, other organizations, the boards that I'm fortunate to be on, it's just like kind of searching for meaning, for purpose, for community. And so I think what success looks like for me right now is just feeling good.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that's a good place. That's a good place to do it because I'm going to plug it again. Everybody can come to the Core Summit in October in Kimberly, BC and feel good, give you a high five, give you a hug, see you in real life. Let's take a selfie.
I'm a hugger.
Whatever you got to do. Yeah. Good. There's lots of good feels at the Core Summit. It's a good place to get together with like-minded people who want to grow the industry together in interesting ways that are focused on the small makers and designers. So another plug
collaboration over competition. I'm excited about going to Core.
Sweet, man. Appreciate that. Any final thoughts? Anyway, everybody go to Garage Grown Gear to have your next look for the next piece of kit you're going to get. Anything else?
If you're curious, check something out. Like if nothing really resonates with you, that's fine too. My mom is always like trying to buy stuff off the site. And I'm like, Mom, you don't do this thing. Don't feel like you need to buy stuff. So, if you don't need it, don't buy it. But if you do, it's a good spot.
Yeah. And I may be getting a little too personal because I think I sent you a message like months ago being like, what's with all these bidet bottles you guys sell? And then I was like, okay, let's check it out. I bought it. Game changer. Holy, I'm getting a little personal here, but I will never go back. And
that's what's up.
Check it out. And individual packets of olive oil. Who knew?
Yeah, right? As a vegetarian, essential.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, and my last parting thought is just, Christian, thanks for doing this pod. Thanks for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure to be able to meet you in person at GOA after being one of the people that I've talked to virtually more than just about anyone. So appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, man. Lloyd, I appreciate you and the work you're doing, and look forward to seeing you in person and hearing all the more that you have to say at the Core Summit. Thanks so much for listening all the way to the end of this podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend you think may enjoy it too. You can also take a few seconds to subscribe to the podcast. Anything you do to help share the love here, we'd appreciate it. Thanks so much for following along, and we'll see you next time.